and then if you want to refer back to anything, you can. I'll also turn off my video just in case it slows down the internet at either end. It can do sometimes, so I'll stop that now. And hopefully in a couple of seconds you'll see my screen with an Education Perfect control panel on it. Hopefully you can see that now. Yep, cool, awesome. So I guess maybe we'll start with just some of the latest content updates for both English and languages, and languages teacher there, if you can pass this on to your colleagues, that would be awesome. I'll start with English anyway. So if we go through the content library, then you can obviously, and you guys know how it's all set up here. The main resources that we have for English currently are the skills-based ones, so the language conventions, the reading comprehension. That's sort of been what's been developed this year, and then later in the year is our new English library. So that's basically a selection of leveled lessons that focus on particular texts and students' comprehension and understanding of text, and it covers things like surface skills, inferencing, vocabulary structure, and long answer questions. So it's divided into these categories, and you can choose lots of different lessons that are available, and then as always you can preview them and have a look what's there. So there's a text, and then it's divided into, they've got activities practicing the various skills within that. So it's aimed to just have a whole variety of text there that you can assign in the different text types. And it's just set up in exactly the same way as the other activities. So that's been one of our later developments for English in the second half of the year. With, I think, one of the things Dia mentioned that you were keen to just sort of be reminded of is also our diagnostic testing. And so basically for the language conventions and the reading comprehension, which are as I said, being developed earlier in the year, that we've got a very extensive diagnostic testing that goes alongside both of those. So if you click on language conventions, and this is something that's hopefully really useful at the start of the year, and it might not have been as well set up at the start of this year as it is now, so hopefully at the start of 2018 you'll really be able to make the most of it. So if you click on diagnostic tests, you can see there we've got 4 diagnostic tests for each of the levels for year 7 to 10, covering the language conventions. So, and these have got, you can preview what's in the test. They've got a variety of questions in each of the different categories, so punctuation, word types, sentences, and language features. And basically you can assign this to your class, and it's all marked by the system. So the students will complete the test, and the system will mark it and analyse their results. And then what it does from there is it will then create an individual pathway of learning for each of the students. So it's a great way for working on students' skills, their skills in English, and having them all kind of working on targeted material that's really getting it into the areas of their weaknesses. So it's a fantastic way to do the skills-based learning in English rather than the sort of the going for the workbooks and that kind of thing. And so all you need to do, if you haven't used the assessment function before, is you pick your diagnostic test, you click on the assign button, and then just as you would for a task, you choose the class you want to assign it to. It's automatically picked up that year 7 diagnostic testing there. You choose when you'd like to set it. So the default for an assessment is 24 hours, but you can change that to make it just for an hour if you want them to do it in a specific lesson. To change the dates and the times, you just click in that little rectangle there, and you can change the times as well. But teachers sort of do these in a variety of ways. You can have them doing it in class time for a very formal assessment, or if it's a more sort of informal diagnostic thing, you can have them doing it for homework time, in which case you can set a longer time frame for it. Then in the assessment conditions, you can choose for them to have like a single attempt, multiple attempts. If you want to make it really formal, you can require the students to have an access code to start the test, which means that they can't actually open the test on their screens until they've entered this code. So you'd have that written on the board, and it just means that they can only do it when they're in the strict test conditions. And you can also enable what's called full screen monitoring mode, which means that they can't exit out of the assessment while they're working on it. They have to, and if they do, they get a big red warning, but also the teacher has a panel that they can see what the students are doing, and they can see if a student is trying to exit full screen monitoring mode. So that's a really great tool for you know, a more formal environment. With the results, you can, the default setting here is that the results are automatically marked by the system and released to the students once they've done the test. But if it's for diagnostic reasons and you don't actually want the students to have the results, or if you want to view the results before you release them, you can choose this setting here to withhold student results, which can be quite useful if you don't necessarily want the students to know their result from the diagnostic test. And then finally, this targeted remediation setting, this is the bit that it will assign the tasks to the students based on their results. So it's really, really awesome. It's fantastic for setting those individualized pathways of learning for the students, and great for differentiation. So basically the default setting here is that the system will mark the test and it will automatically assign recommendations as a homework task, and it will you can then set the date that you want that homework task due. So you could, in theory, obviously we wouldn't want it for the 5th of January, I'm not sure you'd have many students doing it, but that's just based on the dates we've got earlier. But you say if you wanted them to have over the whole term for their English skills, you could set it to finish at the end of the term, or if you want it to be a weekly task, it's up to you. And you can also set here, which is really useful, a threshold, a mark threshold. So the default is 70%. So if you want if the student scores less than 70% in a particular section, we'll assign the recommended tasks to them. But you can change that, so you can decide what you want to make that threshold there. You can also tick this section here, the manually review recommendations before assigning them, which means that it won't automatically assign them. You can have a look at what it's assigned as the individual pathways first before it actually assigns them. But I think most people just go for this automatic one. It saves you a lot of time and a lot of effort with setting up the work for the students. Finally, we've got our optional settings, and this is just, you know, emails and summary reports and that kind of thing. So that's how you set up the diagnostic testing, and it works the same for languages. We've got the diagnostic tests available for languages as well. And basically, once you set it up, I won't actually click on assign assessment because that will assign it to your students who've left for the year. They might be a bit put out if they get an email that they've got an English assessment when they finish school. But it means that you can track the data and you can see what they've done. And I'll just, so if I discard this, we'll see a sample report here. So if we go into, this is for an English test, a diagnostic test. So once they've completed the assessment, they get this breakdown of results with the graph. So it shows you, you know, how many students got within each of the percentages. It has the students' names and then their percentage and score that they got. You can export that to a spreadsheet if you want to. And then it will show you the breakdown under each of the categories, and you can assign recommended tasks with the automatic assigning recommended tasks. You don't even need to do this anymore. This is still from in the past when you actually had to manually assign them. And then you get a per question breakdown. So you get some really, really detailed data on the class, but you can also click on the individual student and get a sort of a summary for that student. So you can see up the top their percentage, you can see their strengths, where they got, you know, where they did really well. You can see their next steps, which is the recommended tasks and recommendations, and that's where they've got the most need. And then you can see all the recommended tasks that are set. So that's just a nice wee summary for the students there. So once you've set that, once they get the recommended tasks assigned to them, what that will look like is when they log into their computer, they will see that they've got tasks set, and it will have, like, say if they've need to work on all the areas, it will have individual sort of lessons on each of them. If they've just got a few areas, then it will just have a few, and they just have to click on each of those headings and it will take them to that specific lesson. So it's a great way to set those individualized pathways, as I said. And you can see also, you can track their progress on the recommended tasks through this tasks and homework area. It will come up here with because it's a bit more complex with every student having different tasks assigned to them, it will come up here and it will show you the breakdown of all the tasks that have been set for those students as a result of those diagnostics, so that you can sort of track through this yellow tasks and homework button after they've done the assessment. So that's how the diagnostic tests work. So the reason we've got 4 for each of the skills, so the language conventions and reading comprehension, is that you can do one each term. So there's one for each year level for each term. So you can do a different one each term, and then you can get the data and you can see the progress over time. And we've actually got a function now when you do an assessment and you get the analysis, that you can compare assessment results. So I'm not sure if we'll be able to see that in that sample assessment, but if Drew had set an assessment here for his Year 9 classes, I wonder if there's any ones that have got assessment set. So if we go into, say, Year 8 Foundation Science, they've had an assessment set for them. If we go into analysis, and then you can see that this gives the analysis for the class, and at the top here there's this, on the top right hand side there's this button that says compare results, and you can compare this test that they've done to any of these other tests in the system that they've done. So it's a fantastic way of comparing data and seeing how students are improving. So it really helps you to use that with the term lead testing. If we go back to the content library, you can kind of compare the results from term to term. So it's great for providing that data to senior management on how the students are doing and how they're progressing, especially in the key areas of English, like language conventions and reading comprehension, and also within the NAPLAN material as well. So it's a fantastic, just a fantastic data tool. And I know, having been a teacher in an HOD, how that sort of demand for data from senior management can be pretty huge sometimes, and so it's a really easy way for teachers to gather that data without any kind of manual marking. So hopefully that will make your lives easier. So is there any questions about the diagnostic testing there that I've just spoken about?
I had a question. I was just wondering, like, whenever they automatically get assigned like some homework to do, if they haven't done very well, what are we looking at? The amount of homework that is assigned?
Yeah, well, they can, if I go back into here and go through the process for assigning again, that would be the benefit. They can end up with a lot of work assigned, and also on the flip side, if they've done really well, they can end up with very little work assigned, and some teachers get a bit worried about that. They're like, oh, so-and-so doesn't have any work assigned, and that's because they've, reached the threshold in each of the sections. So that would be, you can click on this box here, limit the amount of work that will be assigned as remediation. So you can limit to no more than 5 hours of work, or limit to no more than 22 lessons, and you can change that figure there. So that's one possibility. Also, if you were worried about it, like if you had a class with a lot of students who you think maybe won't do so well, or if it's the start of the year and you just really want to check that it's appropriate, that would be a time to tick on that manually review recommendations before assigning them, I think. And it doesn't take very long. Like, all you would do is just have a look. You can click on the students, you can see who's been recommended what, and then you can just click on assign. So it wouldn't take you a huge amount of time to do that. Or you can, as I said, you can limit it here as well. Does that answer your question?
That's great, thank you.
Cool, no problem. Are there any other questions about the diagnostics? I'll show you, sorry?
Teachers use the results of the diagnostic testing in their grading and results in schools that you're working with, or?
Yeah, I think obviously it depends a lot from school to school. I think a lot of schools use them for just simply the planning of the skills-based learning, so for assigning those tasks to students to work on their skills. But depending on what reporting system you use, you could definitely use the data for reporting to parents, for their school reports, and I know it's very varied as to how people do that. So you can take the analysis from those results and use it in whatever way you like, really. I know yeah, lots of schools, especially, I mean, obviously language teachers have been using our program for a lot longer than other subjects, but a lot of language teachers have an actual mark on their reports now for Education Perfect and Language Perfect. So they can, yeah, it's definitely, the data is used a lot. And also for NAPLAN practice, the schools, I think, are finding the NAPLAN material very, very useful. So if I just pop into that NAPLAN folder, so if we go back to the content library and have a look in here in the NAPLAN literacy, you can see there's material for NAPLAN in here, and the teachers have been assigning that and finding it to be really, really useful for NAPLAN preparation. And I think Dia's just messaged me and said Mandurah Catholic College have been using the NAPLAN practice, and they reckon they've jumped up 2 bands since they've used it. So that's, you know, some really great data, some feedback and data on how it's helping students to improve on their NAPLAN scores. So I know that that a lot of English departments especially find the NAPLAN material very useful. So you can explore around there and see what's there. There's practice exercises, practice tests, so you can assign the NAPLAN language conventions practice tests as an assessment, just how we saw with the diagnostic testing, and it works in the same way. And then the remedial tasks from tests as well. And we've got the, of course, Year 7 and Year 9 folders and NAPLAN spelling activities as well. So yeah, a lot of schools are using that too, and finding it really useful. So hopefully that answers your question a bit. But yeah, schools do lots of different things with the data, but definitely lots are using it for reporting, and whether it's reporting to management or reporting to parents, and even for parent-teacher interviews. It's really great data, because what you can do is, if you go to this student usage and data button from the control panel, you can track the individual students, and it's so it gives you some very sort of overall data, and it gives you the recent activity and that kind of thing, most popular activities. But then if you go down to the student engagement box, that will have all the students in a particular subject. But then if you you can change that, you can change it to just see your classes. I think because it's Drew's account, it's just got the one class, so it would just be his one class that's set up. So you can then click on the student, and then you get a summary for that student. So that's really handy to have for parent-teacher interviews. If you have the parent coming in, you can click on their particular, their daughter or their son, and say, you know, this is what your child has been doing. I've got all, this is, you know, they were doing stuff as recently as yesterday. This is obviously a good student. This is how long they've been spending on the program. They spent 8 hours online, had so many questions answered. And then you can see here all the tasks they've been set as well. And you can even click into the specific task and see the analysis for that task for that student as well. So it's really, it's a great way of kind of tracking for parents and showing them what their student is doing, either for saying, hey, they're doing a great job, or hey, you know, we've got this resource available, maybe make sure they use it a bit more to help them improve their results. Or if they're asking what can my daughter or son do to help with NAPLAN, say, well, actually they've got this really easily accessible to them. So that student usage report is a really good one for showing parents how their child is going. And you can, I know with parent-teacher interviews it's a bit awkward sometimes if you've got a mark book or something and you're trying to show the parent their child's progress, but with this you don't have to sort of cover up any other students. You can just click on that student before they come and sit down with you, and you've got it just there for their child. So it's quite useful in that regard as well.
So this, the feedback to parents, that's emailed as an attachment, is that how?
So for the actual emails to parents, so that depends on if we've got the parent's email address set up in our system. So I'm not sure if we have for your school or not. I can double check, just give me a second. But basically, if we've got the parent, I don't think we do, if we've got the parent's email, what they don't actually get the results. They get, they'll get the notifications that the students have, I think they get the notifications that the students have got a task or an assessment, and I think they will get the results. I'll just double check with my colleague actually. Do the parents get the results from assessments? Yeah. I'm not sure. We'll double check on that. We're not 100% sure. But well, yeah, they definitely get the notifications that students get. So they won't get the in-depth summary that you get as a teacher, because you get heaps of data. But they'll get the notifications that the students get, I think. But I'll double check whether they get the assessment results. I'm not 100% sure, but I don't think we've got your parent emails set up at the moment. But if you wanted us to set the parent emails up in the system, you just have to send those through to us, and we'll do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wouldn't necessarily be their academic results, but whether or not they're engaging with the tasks, because sometimes we've got kids who do 16% of the task.
Yeah, you mean that to be sent through to parents?
I think so as well.
Yeah, they won't get that. Unfortunately, they don't get that. They just get what the students get. But you could then pass that, in the interview situation or in the reporting situation, you could then pass that on from your parent report. Your teacher report to the parents, if that makes sense. Yeah. But feel free, if you do want to set up the parent emails, just let us know, and we can. That's not a problem for us to do that. But yeah, so that's how the testing works. I'll show you really quickly where to find. We've got the same sort of diagnostic tests available for languages. They're just in a slightly different place. So I'll just show you for the benefit of the language teachers. If you go to, for example, French or whichever of the languages, and go. Sorry.
Did you do Indonesian?
Yeah, Indonesian, sure. So if we go into Indonesian, and then we've got got our content up here, and then if we scroll down to the bottom, you can see for languages they're called proficiency tests at the moment. So if you click on proficiency tests, you can see we've got a beginner and intermediate proficiency test here. So you can use those at the start of your either at the start of the year if you want to kind of see what knowledge the students have, or actually a lot of language teachers use these at various points in the year for gathering data. So you just click on the test, you can preview it there, and you can see the different topics. And these are taken from our Languages in Action units. And they also, with the recommended tasks, they link back to the Languages in Action unit. So so they're based on our kind of program here, the Languages in Action. But I'm not sure if you've seen, I'll just do a quick sort of plug for languages here and the developments that have been happening with the Languages in Action in case you haven't seen them. The Languages in Action is basically our newest content, and we've been developing it over the past few years, but this year we've had a big push on extending it. So there's a lot more listening and reading comprehension and writing and speaking and grammar and that kind of thing. So if you click on beginner and then go into a unit here, you can see it's broken down into, we've got introduction slides which cover the key vocab for each of the topics. And then we've got vocabulary practice, which is a series of multi-choice questions and drag and drop questions practicing the vocab in context. We've got listening comprehension, which is a series of texts where they've got to listen to a conversation or listen to a monologue and then complete activities to go with it. So they start out sort of a simple drag and drop style activities, and then we've got some multi-choice comprehension, and then it moves on to sort of longer answer questions towards the end, and they're all native speaker recordings and original texts that we've written, our content team has written. We've then got reading comprehension, which is a series of texts with different text types. We've got cartoons, blog entries, Facebook messages, and that kind of thing. Sorry, it's taking a few minutes to load, but once again, it's hopefully engaging for the students and the kinds of text that they like to engage with. They start out with recognition style questions and then have some multi-choice comprehension and then some longer answer style comprehension as well. So that's the Languages in Action. We've then got writing, where they've got to write in the target language and you can keep track of their writing and give them feedback. We've got speaking questions where they can actually record their answer, and you can listen and give them feedback on that. And we've got some grammar as well, where they've got a grammar explanation and then questions to practice the grammar based on what's, that sort of nice scaffolded lessons for practicing the grammar point. So that's how our new languages in action material is structured. And then the intermediate and advanced for Indonesian will be updated, hopefully sort of intermediate by the start of next year and advanced sort of later next year. For French, I think you guys have got, just having a look what languages you got, French and, is it just French and Indonesian? Yeah, so French, we've got the beginner and intermediate is the new material, and then the advanced hopefully by the start of next year. So there's a lot of material there that you can use, and the diagnostic testing sort of links into that. And as I said, teachers use it not only at the beginning of the year to get the data, but also at any point in time when you need data. Like if you get the email from the dean saying, oh, we need to know any students who are at risk of not achieving, and you think, oh gosh, right, I'll just quickly set them this test and get some data on how they're going. It's a really quick way of getting that data. And sometimes in languages it can be harder to find that sort of numerical data if you've got to provide it. I know I used to find it quite hard when we had to provide sort of statistics and things, but this is a great way of testing the languages students and having numerical data available really easily. Also, both for languages and for English, any of the content in our system can be set as an assessment. So it doesn't have to be the pre-made tests. It can be like any of the lessons. So any of the language conventions or reading English library lessons, reading comprehension, and likewise in languages, any of the languages in action material or vocab can be set as an assessment. All you need to do is click on it. So I'll just do a languages one here. Click on the lesson, think, oh yeah, some listening. Yep, I want them to do some listening comprehension. And then instead of clicking on this assign as a task button, you can click on this green assess button, and that will set it up as an assessment rather than a task. And it takes you through to that same area we saw before. That with the diagnostic testing, so it's exactly the same. The main difference between a task and an assessment is the task sort of provides the formative data. It tells how the students are, how much they've done, whether they, and you can, with the long answer questions, you can read what they've done, or for languages with the speaking questions, you can listen to what they've done and you can give them feedback. So it's great for the formative data. For the assessment function, it's great for the numerical data, the summative numerical data that you need at the end of the unit or the end of the term, or to provide for reporting or whatever. So it's a great way of getting that numerical data. So that's the main difference between setting a task and an assessment. And so it's, really great for gathering data, and it takes away that pressure if you don't have to go around checking the homework. I know personally as a teacher that's something I was really bad at, setting homework and then forgetting to check it. It takes away that need to actually get around and check their books, take a big pile of books home. So it's really, really great for that kind of thing as well. So that sort of, that covers, so I feel like I'm jumping around a bit to make sure we don't conclude both languages and English, but is there any questions about any of the things, any of the assessment stuff or setting tasks or any of the content so far?
Philippa, you spoke earlier about monitoring students' achievements by clicking on their individual name in that list. With many of the tasks, that seems to be fine to me, because if it's multi-choice and they're clicking the wrong answer, it'll register it that they haven't the correct answer. But with some of the transforming or rephrasing a sentence, for example, or an extended response, what's really being registered in the system is that they've attempted something. So I was looking at a couple of my students, and they were listed as having completed the task 100%.
Yep.
Their actual answers, there were either spelling mistakes, or in one case, a student had just written the word an answer, and the system doesn't pick that up. Is there anything in the wings that might assist with that kind of thing?
I think the best, you're totally right. So the system won't sort of mark specifically the long answer questions. So I think that, and as you've probably seen, what you can do is go in, and I'll just see what unit this is, but this is a French unit that someone set, and if it's got some writing questions in it, it's an elementary one, so it won't do, but basically you can go in and you can see what they've written, and then you can leave them comments. So if they've written an answer that's not satisfactory, you can leave them a comment, and you can also rate their answer, which is really, and so then they'll get feedback. When they log in, they get a wee notification saying they've got feedback on their answer. And I think if they see that you're actually looking at what they've done, hopefully for most students that will help them that will encourage them to not just, write yeah. I know, I totally understand that some students do that. I've had those students myself, and yeah, there's nothing that the system can do to. I think actually some of the English questions do have like a facility whereby it will prompt them if if it's expecting a slightly longer answer and they've just written one word. It will prompt them and say, "Are you sure you've written enough?" and that kind of thing. So that's and also another new, very, very new feature of our system is that we've got a new self-assessment tool, and it's probably not enabled in a lot of the questions yet because it's so new. It came out, I think, last week or the week before, and the way that works is that once the students have written an answer for the longer answer questions, it will ask them to rate their answer and kind of assess their answer, which might help a few of them, maybe not all of them, but it will hopefully get a few of them thinking, actually, have I done enough here? And what we're working on for next year, kind of leading on from that, is a peer review. So, and this may or may not be appropriate for all classes. We're very aware that, it's a function that will be able to be turned on and off, but it will, the students will submit their answer, and then if you've set it up to be peer reviewable, it will then kind of randomly assign what they've written to someone else in the class to peer review it. And yeah, as I said, I know that some classes that wouldn't be appropriate for, but you will have the facility to turn that on and off when you set a task. But that's not available yet. The self-review is currently available for some of the questions, but it's very recent, so it's still being integrated throughout the lessons. But I think probably the most powerful tool is just showing the students what you can see. So I'm just trying to find a task here will have a written task in it. But if you just sort of project it on the board and show them, hey, I can see this when you submit it. And this one's got, so for example, this one's got some speaking tasks in it. And you can click on this feedback button down the bottom, and that will take you directly to the tasks that have got either a paragraph answer or a recorded answer. They work in the same way. So if you click on that question, it then has the class list down the side. For this one, as it's speaking, you can listen to what they've recorded. And hang on, this is listening, sorry. You can see what they've written. Anyway, you can see the model answer. You can leave them feedback. So if you weren't satisfied with what they'd written, you can say, Adrian, this isn't enough, you need to write more, and you can give them you can even require resubmission, and that will get sent to the student, and they'll get a little notification about that. So I think even showing this when you set the task, that you can actually go in and see what they've done, is hopefully we'll get some of them. And then if the ones that don't respond from that, if you start giving them little messages and requiring them to resubmit, hopefully that will get them going as well, the ones that you haven't caught already, if that makes sense.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Are there any other questions?
I have a question. I think I'm a level 1 beginner.
Yeah.
I'm doing the same thing each fourth, my year 8.
Yeah.
Wondering, but I don't know how many other people want to know. How do you get beyond that?
Right. Okay. Good question. Cool. So if we go, in the certification system it's quite a bit old, and we're hoping it's going to have a bit of a revamp soon, but at the moment, to have a look at what it sort of means, if you go to this top right hand corner where it's got your name, and so this is Drew's account, so you can see his name there, and click on teacher certification, it will tell you what you need to do to get to the next level. So I think to get to level 2, you've got to have 25 logged in 25 times. You've got to have made 10 homework tasks, and Drew has done both of those things. You can see the green, that's got a green bar, but then you've got to make one quick test. So all that Drew needs, you can see he's nearly at level 2. All he has to do is make one quick test. So if I had, because I'm in his account, if I'd actually assigned that test that I showed you before, that probably would have got him to, I think if I'm doing it for him, that probably would have got him to level 2, just like that. So that gives you the criteria for what you personally need to do to get to the next level. But if you want to learn more about each of the different levels, and I think Michelle in the languages department might actually be a level 5, or level 4 at least, which is very, very high, so she'd be a good person to ask. Yeah, so Michelle's a level 4, which is very impressive. Basically, this article here shows you what you need to do for each of the levels. So level 1, beginner, you've just got to have logged in, created one homework task, set a quick test, and that's all you need to do for level 1. Level 2, you've got to log in 25 times, and I think I went through that before. So it might just be that all you need to do to get to level 2 is that quick test, if you've logged in quite a bit and been using it quite a bit. Level 3 is a bit more. You've got to have logged in 100 times, created 5 content lists, 20 homework tasks, and 1 competition. So quite a lot of the people sitting at level 2, potentially it's because you haven't made a competition before. And to do a competition, that's really easy. I can show you quickly now how to do it. Is you just have to go to the control panel, and there's a little white box here, and there's this, if you click on this link saying competitions, and then you can just create a competition, and you can set it up. You can give it a name. So Year 9 English competition, you give it any name you like. You can set the start and end times there. You can select, you can invite other schools, but most schools tend to just do it within their own one. You can select the classes, so you might set it up with all the English classes or all the Year 9 English classes or whatever. You can then select the content for the competition. So you can either base it on one subject. So you can, for languages, you can make it all the languages, or you might make it generally just for English, and probably that's would be the most sensible for keeping it within a department. A lot of schools for languages do it around International Languages Week, and they'll set up a competition between all the languages then. But yeah, so you can set the subject. You can actually tailor it to a specific module or list, but I think we generally recommend pick this, that just setting it at the subject level unless there's something really specific you want to do. And then you can either reset the points for the students, so it goes back to 0 for this competition. It will return to their original score at the end of the competition, or you can just keep their learning progress, so you can choose that there. Then you just click on create competition, and it will do that for you. It will create a scoreboard that you can then show your class, send out the link to your class, and it's just a nice way of getting them motivated and keen, excited about it. Probably a nice thing to do at the start of the year, just to get them really into it. And obviously some are more competitive than others, but it's just another wee engagement tool that you can use, and so that will get you up to level 3. So a lot of people sitting at level 2 waiting to move up to level 3, it could just be because you haven't created a new competition. And likewise, getting from level 1 to level 2, it could well be just that quick test that you've got to do. And Dia's just messaged me and said that Michelle in languages, who I don't think is there right now, but you might want to pass on to her, she's only got to assign 24 more homework tasks before she gets to level 5. So level 5 is guru level. It's pretty impressive. Not many teachers are level 5, so that's pretty awesome if she got to level 5. And we do send certificates for the different levels of certification as well. Some teachers who are particularly competitive like to have a bit of an internal competition going between the staff as to who can get to different levels. So if that's something that you're into, go for it, but it's obviously depends on on individuals. So yeah, to get to level 4 and 5, it is really just kind of doing lots of things, like lots of times. So you've got to log in 250 times, 100 homework tasks, 10 competitions. And level 5, I think, a lot of competitions, 50 competitions, it's a lot. But we are, as I said, the certification is quite old. We are sort of hoping to revamp it a wee bit. I'm not sure when that's going to be happening, but just to take into account some of the more kind of advanced things that you can now do within our system. So that's how the certification works. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. I think
No
what
worries.
I was wondering about was it's not like a Kahoot where you can actually go in and put your own content. So when you're doing, can you actually put your own content?
Yes, so you can do your own content as well. It's a really good question. We're sort of and that might be a nice way to finish today's session probably. It'll probably take us through to about an hour. So we're in the process of building, we're actually just about to release a new content editor, and I think they sort of produced the latest test release yesterday, and hopefully that will be live very soon. So I'll show you using the new one, seeing as it's just about to change, and it is really nice and easy to use. But it's not quite live yet, but but it will be live, I'm hoping, very soon. And this is really cool for any subject. And hopefully some of you will feel excited to sort of embrace this. It's just taking a while to load. So at the moment it's through a special link that you have to access, and but hopefully from when it becomes live, it will just be through the normal control panel. So you click on the content library, and I can send you a webinar recording of this as well that specifically goes into content creation in more detail for those of you who are interested. But I'm just going to go into a separate account here to show you how it all works. So you go to your content library. The best place to create content is in the private workspace, which is up the top, and that's a private area that no one else can access. And it just means that while you're in the process of creating it, students can't go into what you're doing, and you can sort of be happy with the final product before you share it out. And you can share this with other staff, you can share it with students, but in the private workspace, it's kind of just like an area to start with. So you go into the private workspace, you go to add content and click on Smart Lesson. And then a Smart Lesson is basically what all of our lessons are. So it's just a way of compiling learning material together. So there's different sections in a Smart Lesson. There's an information section, which is where you have the new learning material. There's a quiz section, which is for self-marking, multi-choice, drag and drop activities, an extended response, which is for the longer answer questions. Click on Start Building, and then you can just go for it. So for the information slide, you just click on Add Slide. You can choose whether you want something that's sort of free form with the layout or with some media in it, that kind of thing. So if we go for something with some media, sorry, there's some construction noises going on in the background. I hope that's not too off-putting. So you just put in some instructions in the question prompt. You can choose your media from either an image, and for that you can either use our image bank, or you can upload your own images. So, and it will even suggest images as well. So you could say something like, watch, in this unit we are going to learn about Shakespeare. And then it's come up with a few selected images, but you can also click on image and either upload your own or go into our image bank and search. So if I type in Romeo and Juliet, I don't know if we'll have an image for that, but hopefully, oh, we do. Look at that. So you can, and we've also got GIFs as well. You can use that image, and then you can put in any sort of more text that you want to. You can change the formatting, so you can see up here, it's fairly standard kind of formatting tools. And then you can change the layout as well if you want to, and then just save it when you're happy. And there we go, there you have it. And then probably the most, you can also put in a YouTube video. So if you click on Add Slide again and then click on video, you can either upload your own, or you can just copy a YouTube link into there. So it's, if you've got your own videos that you use for for whatever, if you're sort of already running a flipped classroom environment or videos that you've made yourself for whatever reason, you can upload them, and you can put those in there. The quiz, so that's how you make an information slide. Once you know where to click on, it's actually really, really quick, and you just follow the prompts. The quiz section, this is where you can make either multi-choice or fill in the gaps, or highlighting kind of questions. So the multi-choice are really easy. Just click on multi-choice, enter the question text in there. So sorry, my mind always goes straight to language questions when I'm doing these, but so you could say, what is the theme of this play? And then you can add in some supporting media if you want. So you can add in an image, and it will you can choose one from auto select, or you can do what we did before and find one in our image bank or upload one. Then you just pop in your options. And you can put in as many options as you like. Obviously the green tick is the correct one, and then you can see what the question will look like there. Then you can keep adding the questions. I'll show you the fill in the gaps is also really cool. So you click on that one, you can enter in the question here. So fill in, complete this sentence using the correct word, and it will once again come up with some images based on what we've got there, but you can choose your own, or you can put any kind of media in there again, and then you put the sentence where you want the gap filled in. So so this play is about two friends. This is a really bad example for English. I apologise, but it just shows you how to use the system. So choose a gap, and then you can click on the words that you want to be gaps. So, and then you can add distractors. So that just means adding another options for that the students have to choose from. So, and then once again you can preview it, and then the students just have to drag the words into the correct order there. So that's really cool. Really cool. This is I think also for language teachers, this is really great if you're practicing grammar, or or the multi-choice for comprehension. It's really, really useful for languages too. And then you can assign, once you've created these lessons, you can assign them to the students. In the extended response, this is where you make the long answer questions, so with the kind of sentence level answer or voice recording questions. So to do that for the long answer, you could say write a paragraph giving your opinion of this text, for example, and then you could have a prompt in there for whatever would be appropriate. You can put in a model answer if you want to, which means that when the students will submit it, that's how we do our sort of comprehension questions. The students will see the model answer, but you don't have to, and then that will for the students, that will sort of give them that text box to write in. And also for language teachers especially, what's really cool, but also for English teachers, like if you're wanting students to practice speeches and sort of give them feedback on that, if that was appropriate, we've got our sound recording questions, and these are really, really cool. You can enter in the questions, so record yourself talking about what you eat for breakfast in Indonesian, for example. And then you can choose this. This is the sound recorder. So basically what that looks like for the students is they record their answer to that question. What you can also do, and this was working last night when I tried it, but it has also been not working just because this is a really new function, so I'm going to hope that it's working today, is you can add in a sound. So you can record the question in the target language or in English if you wanted to, if that was appropriate, and you can actually, as a teacher, record into the question. So you just say, I'm just going to do an example in French, qu'est-ce que tu manges au petit déjeuner? What do you eat for breakfast? You can play back your answer, and then use this sound, and that will go straight into the question, and it's working. That's a miracle. That's been something that we've been asking for a long time, to be able to incorporate, so teachers can actually incorporate, recordings. They can just record directly into a question. And I know for language teachers that will probably be quite an exciting feature for you guys to use, so maybe pass it on to Michelle and the other languages guys. Hopefully they'll appreciate that. So that's you can also have a model answer as well. So that's the voice recording question. So there's a lot you can do with creating your own content. And I know that was a very quick kind of going through how to do it. As I said, I can send you a webinar that I did the other day with more details. And I think the best thing is just to have a play around with it, see how it goes. And if you do want to get in touch with us and have a more in-depth session just on creating content, we're happy to do that as well. So are there any questions about that?
One question about the legalities of copyright if we're using.
Yep. Sorry, can you repeat that?
If we're creating content.
Yes. Yep.
Want to use pictures or like YouTube clips.
Yep.
Is that breaking copyright?
Okay, that's a really good question, and it's a question we're always sort of thinking, we have in the back of our minds as well when we're creating our own content. So I think as far as YouTube goes, you're allowed to use YouTube clips because they're on the internet, freely available for people to use. So that's fine. With all the images that are already in our image bank that will come up as auto suggestions or that you can search for, we have accessed all of those from a site that we have the copy that we've paid to have access to them for. So that's legitimate. But the only thing that can cause issues is if you wanted to upload your own image, like it wouldn't be okay to kind of screenshot something from a textbook website and upload it and that kind of thing. So it's got to be images. If you're wanting to upload your own images, it's got to be stuff that you are allowed to kind of use in a public domain, if that makes sense. But the ones that we have in our image bank, and we have like a team of probably 50 or 60 people working here full time creating content on a daily basis, they are requesting images from the from a couple of websites that we have access to already, that we have the rights to. So that it's all legal in that regard.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, but YouTube I think is fine because it's sort of public domain.
It's not connected to this, Philippa, but do you have a webinar on just how to set up a homework program for a year that you could also send us a link to for people that are setting up, like homework for year 9 for the year or for the term, just as a refresher if people need it?
Yeah, we do. We've got actually a whole lot of help pages. We've got a thing called help. Knowledge Hour, sorry, got the wrong word. So Knowledge Hour is our kind of help centre. So this is where I had the teacher certification article, but if we go to the homepage, you can see, you can look here and there's lots of different help articles which often have videos in them as well about doing various things. So it's a really, like if you think, oh gosh, how do I do that again? Oh yeah, I want to set up a homework task. I'll click there. Then you've got how do I assign a task, how do I reset a task, etc. And you can see when it's got the little video icon, it means it's got a video with it. So that's probably the best thing to have as a refresher. But we will also run webinars at the start of next year. And we'll have a lot of kind of getting started ones, just with the revision of all those kind of things too. So we'll be running webinars next year. We've also got all our recordings of webinars for this year, so I can send you the link to that as well. I can send you both the Knowledge Hour here and the webinar recordings from this year as a reference point that can be forwarded around staff if that would be helpful.
That's great. Thank you.
No worries. So, yeah, I'm really aware that we're probably almost reached our hour. And also, yeah, Diaz just reminded me, Nick's coming on the 29th of January, so he'll be able to do a refresher as well on any of the basics if people need it, or if you've got new staff as well.
That's great.
Yeah, so if you've got any other questions before we sort of finish off.
It looks like we've looked at it for now, but you've done a great deal of such a short amount of time. So we really appreciate it.
Cool. No, well, hopefully there's been something new for everyone, and hopefully no one's fallen asleep. I know I was always one to fall asleep in staff meetings, so I hope I haven't put anyone to sleep. Yeah, and just keep in touch if you need anything. We'll have our customer support available all throughout the holidays. So have a holiday, of course, but if anyone's so excited about Education Perfect that they want to work on stuff in the holidays, we will be around if you need any help with anything. And as I said, Dia will be here next year to support you however she can, and just keep in touch if there's anything we can do to help.
It's wonderful. Thank you very much.
Cool. No worries. And I'll send this recording through to you as well. It might take a few minutes to process, but yeah, I'll send that through later on today with a few of those other help links.
That sounds wonderful. Thank you so much, Philippa. And
No worries. And have a great holiday.
All right, take care.
Yeah, okay, bye.
Bye.
Bye.